Right, let's look at that underside part. Now the underside part, we're going to have to jump down a subdivision level because we're going to make some quite big changes. And we could do this with the damn standard brush. We're definitely going to use it to a degree. So you can see here, and it's not just because the fingers are kind of curved in, although even ours are kind of curved in. We've got these very deep kind of folds. Okay, so those are quite important to get in there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll take a rather large down standard brush size, and we're just going to, like as you see there, just basically dig in a channel for where the finger connects to the actual palm of the hand. Okay, and you're basically going to carry that out. Don't join them as you might be tempted to do, but just basically carry that out separately at the base of each finger on the inside. Okay, and all the way over to the pinky finger. And of course, you know, don't take it all the way to the top, because obviously that's where it starts to stretch out and it starts to get less slack and what have you, so that's fine there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sort of just change the shape of that ever so slightly. So let's grab our move brush. You can do the move topological brush if you like, but I'm basically going to take that down. I'm just going to make it a bit more of a U shape like that. Okay, something like that there. Stay with me now, ZBrush. Okay, yep, so once you've kind of got your U shapes there, you can see we're kind of going for this style there. Okay, what we're going to do now is essentially just mask that off. Just mask that shape off right there, okay, that we've just created, but not the finger section, just where it sits into the gloves. Okay, now you can see that I caught a little bit of the finger section, so I'm going to have to go back over that again. Okay, just like that. Okay, and then control click to smooth it out a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take we could use the inflate brush. Let's try the inflate brush, why not? We've used the standard brush already. And let's just use the alternate version of it. And you can see what it's doing there is it's just pushing the finger back ever so slightly. And just do this gradually there, so you can see it's sort of creating that fold like that. Okay, so basically it's not affecting the shape we've just done there, it's just affecting where the fingers are, and I can see there's an issue here already. So with that, I'm just going to take the standard brush. Okay, so what that's doing there is just separating where the finger sits and where the glove actually is. But for this one, that's not working out too well. I hoped it would, but we can just use a standard brush instead, provided ZBrush doesn't threaten to crash on me. Let's smooth that out a bit. So if we release the mask, this is what we've got there. Okay, so we've got that kind of, what can we say, almost like a trough essentially. Okay, but we do want to smooth this out. We don't want a kind of great big wall. We don't want this kind of moated effect, but we do want the kind of knuckle area taller than the finger area, if that makes sense. Okay, so the fingers are shallower, as you can see there, in every facet like that. Okay, why? Because the leather, as it bunches up, it grows in height. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to paint in some of these kind of shades that we see. We'll go down to the lower subdivision just so we can put some of these in quite easily, and more or less you want to be working in the inverse function of the standard brush in this particular case. And let's go for something where we can actually see the undulations quite clearly. Let's go for this matte cap green, and just usually the undulations will happen and occur in between the fingers. Okay, so you can see here it's occurring in between the fingers, and let's get that nice sort of area painted in there where it just kind of wraps around and goes to the other finger. In fact, we might need to use subdivision level 2 for this. Okay, and you can see that the matte cap green material is helping out quite tremendously there and trying to just ballpark where that effect sort of goes. And we can carry that around here as well a little bit. Okay, but essentially you want to kind of keep these areas in between the fingers. Okay, so that where the fingers are, you kind of want this triangle shape happening, more or less. Okay, some fingers you can see that's not the case, which is fine. Doesn't matter if it's not the case. Okay, don't worry about it. This is just the randomized nature of something like leather, right? All we can do is just simply paint and draw what it is we see. Okay, so don't get too hung up on it if it's not quite following the rules I just made up on the spot there. It's just about kind of painting more or less what you see. Okay. And if you've done any kind of small miniature crafts or say kind of die-cast models and stuff like, not die-cast models, but plastic model kits, you'll know all about kind of just going with what you see, because at that scale and size, that's all you can do really. You can't get the real thing, so you're going to have to try and imitate it as much as you can. So essentially what we're doing is 3D artists. Okay, so I'm just working on building this particular area out here, but I'm not going to keep using the standard brush for that much longer. I'm going to swap over to my inflate brush in just a second, and I'll show you why. It's because it's going to allow me to do something very specific. But hold that thought. Before I do that, I'm going to take a quick visit to the damn standard brush and just kind of, with a big size, just come in here and just, oops, not that much, said brush, just emphasize some of these folds here, in particular this nice big one that I want to emphasize. Okay, and then something up there as well, and then maybe a few little ones down here, and maybe up there. I'm going to use the inverse of that one. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to use the inverse mostly now just to kind of help and just lightly sort of paint in the path where the rest of these sort of go. Okay, so just kind of paint in that very light kind of curvature there. And it's important we do this before the inflate brush phase, just because the higher the different volume of this, you see this is quite hilly looking now, okay, the easier time the inflate brush is going to have understanding what areas you want to shrink and what areas you want to kind of inflate. Okay, without that step, it's going to kind of leave it up to its interpretation, which can be a bit of a mixed bag. So the more we kind of separate the lower and higher parts of the gloves and the folds here, the easier time that will be for us. Okay, and then just come around here a bit more. Notice I'm not doing any of the finger parts just yet. I'm just kind of doing the in-between sections here. And let's go up an extra subdivision level so we can actually start to come in and affect some of these areas. So deflate some of these areas here. Okay. And then we'll just kind of deflate some of that. So we're going to create these very more smoother undulations here by using the inflate brush. Okay. So here, for example, you can use the inflate brush just to deflate some areas. Okay, you can inflate them. It's very gradual, and that's the nice thing about the inflate brush. It does everything very gradually, so you don't have to worry too much about any nasty looking random hills that you're suddenly drawing without intention. Okay, and so here as well, we could take a large part of that there, smooth that out. Okay. It's up to you, essentially, how far you go with this. I might do some lines up there whilst I'm here. There we go, just something like that. And there's a nice, I'm just going to swap over to my standard brush, come down a level, and I see a nice fold here as well, around the thumb. So just slowly making our way towards the fingers. Okay, so we've got a fold there. Let's go a higher subdivision level and just tweak it in there, and then we just want to get another fold in there to kind of meet in the middle. Okay, carry that fold beyond its seam line, that's perfectly fine. That's a entirely legal maneuver, you can do that. Okay, fabulous. Okay, now with the thumb, we've got these kind of jutting out parts there a little bit. We can sort of come and deflate some of these areas. And say, let's swap material again. Let's go for something that's quite, we can see these folds, a sculpty one. Okay, so you can just see how much we're changing the effect of the thumb there. Okay, again, remember that the leather folds are all kind of interrupting that smooth line that you have going on. Okay, so instead of being a nice circle, it's now kind of a wonky straight, which is interesting. Okay, and then don't forget as well with the thumb here, we're at the very top, the kind of first notch on your thumb, that needs to be quite visible there. That's going to create quite a, usually quite a significant bump. That's usually unavoidable. You would most definitely see that. Okay, and you're probably gonna can create more streaks off that as well, because the thumb is unique in a way because it's bent. Okay, in our form here, it's not stretched out; it's kind of bent, so you can actually go a bit to town on the folds here. You can see there, I'm just adding some more folds around there because it is kind of, well, it's folded over, it's creased over. Okay, just swapping between different subdivision levels and, you know, go across as well. Okay, so just like the rules we played with the thumb there, it's going to be the same, sorry, with the fingers, it's going to be the same for the thumb. Okay, so very much a focus on that, the bonier part of the thumb there. But then the other parts we can kind of get some looser parts, just kind of like this. We can do a few little kind of crosses across the thumb tip itself. Okay, and then just do your best to upset this line here because it's a seam line, so you want to upset that line quite a bit. Okay, you can see there that that's had quite a decent effect. Okay. Right, so let's actually address the fingers now. We've done the underside there. Let's do the fingers. What can we do for the fingers? You can see it's a lot of just lines going backwards and forwards. I'll demonstrate it on the index finger. Okay, so taking the inverse of the standard brush, feel free to go a little bit higher on the power, a little bit bigger perhaps, and then just where the kind of knuckles are, or where it would fold, that's where you want to concentrate the bulk of your folds, and it just kind of lines across like that. Now the tendency with stuff, I guess, is you can make them too straight, so do try your best to kind of create as much as a curvature in them as you can, and kind of off angle them a little bit. Okay, they shouldn't all be completely, you know, straight across type deal. They should sort of, some should maybe go across like that, some should go across like this. Okay, so do try and mix it up and make some variations there, and don't be afraid to carry it around as well, so you can see that that's the kind of effect it's having on the other side there. Okay, you can also do some across like that, but just be careful how many folds you do across the finger, just because it can change the overall shape, and if your gloves are quite rigid, it's not going to have a lot of them. Okay, but doesn't mean to say you can't have any, so just kind of go with your flow here. And as you get towards the fingertips and any seams, just do your best to kind of upset the edge a little bit, change it out, make a few little kind of knobbly bits. Okay, and any small folds leave for now. We're going to come through with the damn standard brush a little bit later. Okay, just focus on getting these general sort of folds placed in. Okay, and there's going to be some there for sure, around where the finger is and where it joins the rest of the gloves. Okay, so make sure you've got a material here that can help you with seeing where all these could be placed. There's nothing worse than trying to see something that, well, it's just very difficult to see in the first place. So make sure you select a material that can assist you with seeing all these nice folds you're creating. Okay, you can see here I'm just somewhat haphazardly just stroking along the side there with the inverse function of the standard brush and just upsetting that line a bit, and I've done it a bit too much there, so bring that back out. Okay, and you can see instantly the difference between these two fingers and these fingers here. These fingers don't look like actual fingers anymore, they just look like gloves. Okay, and that's the effect that we're going for. Okay, just keep going. And remember, don't get too hung up with it. I feel like I'm always reminding you not to sort of panic, but I do know personally firsthand how stressful something like this could be. You can sort of think, oh, I've got to get them in exactly the right positions and I've got to follow the reference exactly. Look, no, you don't. Okay, because the problem with that being is it just stresses you out unnecessarily, and so long as you've got the right idea, I mean, you can more or less tell when something is not quite right. Okay, you might not be able to tell instantly, but when you look back at it, maybe with fresh eyes, or you zoom out a little bit, you can tell when something is off. It can be hard to figure out what that something is specifically, but you can tell, you know? In which case, revisit your reference, have a look, see if there's something that you'd like to change, okay? But whilst you're sculpting, I wouldn't say, you know, keep your nose buried in your reference, so to speak. Especially for something like gloves. I mean, if you're creating a likeness, a visual likeness that we'll be doing later on, okay, obviously you want to refer to your reference as much as possible. But for something like this, where we're just putting in folds on our particular garments and stuff like that, just steal the idea, steal the general gist and feel of the folds, and just kind of go to town with that idea. Once you've got the flow and the idea of where the seams kind of flow and where the creases fold, just go with your gut instinct then, okay? And you can see that's exactly what I've done there, and the result isn't bad at all, okay? Compared to what we had when we first started on the gloves, it's like night and day, okay? Now you could argue it's a bit too hilly. Yeah, you could be right, in which case, here's what you can do. Bring it down to a lower subdivision level, grab your move tool. In fact, it might be a bit better to grab your move topological tool. And any parts that are a bit too kind of drastic, change them out, okay? Just readjust their height, like that, okay? But for the most part there, apart from that one index finger, I think I did quite a good job there. The only other thing I think you might want to do, depending upon how your fingers turned out, okay, you might just want to kind of mask them off and just pull back those shapes you made earlier, just so that they're a bit tighter around the fingers and are not too far back in the actual glove, okay? But that, again, your mileage may vary. You can see there, as I bring them closer to the fingers, it's more of a kind of valley I've created there, okay? And if you want that extra effect, you can use the inverse of the inflate brush again, just to emphasize that as you see fit, okay? But there you go. That's the kind of glove portion, I'd say almost done. All we've got to do now is I'd like to just address some of this on top, and it's what's important now as we introduce these little strands that are going across. So let's take a standard brush, and we will just keep it on this subdivision level. We'll just kind of paint them in, and you can see it's a little bit low res, but that's fine. We're just going to basically pencil in where these go, and then once we're happy with the position, we will bump up the subdivision level, and we'll go over them again. Okay, and just carry it all the way. Well, actually, no, say that, belie that. Carry it to the ends where you'd want it to finish. It's quite important to decide where that's going to be. Okay. There we go. And what we're going to do now is take the damn standard brush, and we're just going to very gently, on a low intensity, just go over to the edges there and just highlight their presence. Okay, just make it stand out a little bit more. We'll start with one edge first, and we'll just make them stand out a bit more than they currently are, just by following the very contour of the shape we just drew. Okay, and we'll do the same for the other side as well. And don't worry if it's too thick and chunky, you're thinking, oh gosh, that looks like a big, I don't know, it looks like a straw or something that you're drawing in, it's too thick. Don't worry, you probably already know what's coming next, but yes, we will solicit the help of the pinch tool. Hit P, there it is, and then now, of course, anything that you feel is a bit too thick, you can simply just pinch away. Okay, remember, if it starts pinching areas you don't want it to, mask off that area to protect it and just pinch away. Okay, the only last thing I would suggest doing is that once you get to the ends here, just kind of round them off. Okay, so just kind of cut them like that, round them off to make it clear that yes, they do actually end and not just, you know, kind of boundless and infinite. Okay, and then smooth out any other areas you don't want. Okay. You could even use a damn standard brush yourself just to help emphasize their existence too. Just be careful to stay away from the edges that are recessed. Okay, and there you go. And what you can do with this is you can come in with a standard brush just to do some finer details and just kind of, if you want, very just brazenly, or maybe in a lower intensity, just kind of come across and just scatter across there like that some extra folds that can just help bring that area to life. And just around here, okay, we've got the general gist of what we want in here now, so we can just kind of carry this effect on. Start adding in some folds. Now that all the details are in, we can work around those details now and add in any extra folds you might want to. Okay, so here for example, I might want to do a dig in here and do a nice fold that's kind of round there, and then just it's kind of like a zigzag there. Okay, and it goes in like that. Nope, don't save that brush. Okay, I might also want to do the very same fold that I see here as well, you know, like a zigzag one there. Okay, and then it's going to create a bit of a hill out of all that, so I'm going to have to carry that across there. Okay. So a lot of this you actually won't see. I'm actually tackling areas now that you wouldn't actually see, because I believe it's being covered, or part of it will definitely be covered by the vembrace on top, but doesn't matter. Okay, and let's have one that kind of comes up here. There we go, another one there, something like that. Okay. And remember what I said before about the small ones, so it's coming now with a rather big damn standard brush. You can even change the brush outfit if you like, but I just find just a big little brush like that, a big damn standard brush, and just kind of going around and just stippling the edge there. It's kind of going to create these little needle points there, but don't worry about it too much. Okay, you can kind of smooth them out a little bit later on, but just coming with a rather large damn standard brush size and just kind of stipple the edges a little bit. Space it out. You don't want to stipple every single edge, you just want to do light ones. And you can see it's actually having effects on the edges as well. Okay, it's actually moving them out of sync a little bit, which is a welcome addition. Okay, because again, it's human error, it's not perfect. They shouldn't look factory made, because factories did not exist back then. And do the same on the thumb. Okay, and any other seam line as well that you can see. Okay, right, so what we're going to do now is we'll just smooth that out. Just along the edges. Okay. And all that's going to do is just get rid of the sharp cuts, any sharp cuts that might be there, but leave the kind of general folds behind. Okay, there you go. Alright, there is one glove complete. Okay, we haven't done the vembrace yet, that's obviously the next part, but the glove per se is complete. Okay, so there it is there. Back into the slot of the vembrace if you like, so that's it, the glove's done. Wasn't that fun? Yeah, it's a lot more fun than it was creating the boots for sure. Okay, so the gloves can be quite fun. Just have a bit of fun with it. Don't get too stressed out. Obviously, as I'm talking here, I might just come in and just add in a few more little details, but I'm not going to do anything too crazy. I'm just going to maybe highlight a couple of areas like this, for instance. Okay, I forgot to do that as like a little pass. It's a pass that we've done with everything else, you know, with the folds on the shirt and whatnot, so it's just nice to give the gloves the same treatment. Okay, so just a bit of it, and just kind of fold that round. Yeah, something like that. Oops, ZBrush, thank you. Don't lag on me yet, ZBrush. Don't be doing that. Okay, just using inflate brush now. Deflating some areas. Inflating others. Okay. Then you can see basically what I'm going for. Okay, there you go, guys. Alright, hopefully you had fun with that. You've walked out with some nice gloves. Your mileage may vary, of course, but hopefully you can take the tips you've learnt there and create your own glove. So, what we're going to do now in the next video is finally tackle those Vembracers. Have you made a decision yet? I haven't, but I will between this video and the next. So, have a think about it. What kind of Vembrace would you like to go for? Okay, I'm definitely feeling this style here. I might just go with the straps, but you know, I could be persuaded to still keep the laces there, but we'll see. We'll see in the next video.